Welcome to another episode of Breakthrough, a Dale Carnegie podcast. And this podcast, as you know, focuses on providing, Generation Z, really good content, but also for parents and educators. And my name is Neville DeLucia. I'm the co-host along with Faith Wright, and we are delighted to have Adam van Gootkin join us today, the co-founder and CEO of Highclere Castle Spirits. And I met Adam I didn't meet him per se, but I heard you, Adam, speak at our convention in New York City. And I just loved your candor, the way you connected with the audience. But more importantly, I thought some of the stuff that you shared really resonates or would resonate with our Gen Zs and the parents of Gen Zs about this ambition and this drive that you have. So I think before we get into that, please, Adam, just tell us a little bit about you.
Sure, Neville. Well, it's great to be with both of you today. And I very much enjoyed speaking at that convention as well. I'm a lifelong entrepreneur. I kind of dropped out of college at a very young age and didn't have a very clear path, as nobody does at that age. And since then, I've just been kind of on my journey of trying to create value and having fun along the way. And entrepreneurship, I think, in a way, it's a very creative process. So for me, it's kind of like, in a way, each business that I've made has kind of been like my own version of a painting. And I think business, very much like life, is kind of about the journey, and it's about leaving the place a little bit better than you found it, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I love how you say that, and being the serial entrepreneur and wanting to make a positive impact and leaving things better. I think that's so important. But lifelong learning is something that's critical. And I remember you reflecting on, you read the book How to Win Friends and Influence People, right? And that had an impact. Would you care maybe just to share a little bit of as to how you applied that and what were the key things you took away that allowed you to leave your space a little bit better?
Yeah, well, I suppose, we all have our individual journey. And like many people out there, mine wasn't necessarily an easy one. I had I was kind of raised by a single mom, and we didn't have a whole lot of money. And, I didn't really have a father figure. I had some great uncles and support, but I didn't have that traditional kind of family unit. And so, at the age of 16, the day I turned 16, I got my first job. And I was fortunate because the job I had was rather cool. I was kind of a pool boy, like a cabana boy, and at this kind of apartment complex. And so the job consisted of checking people in and kind of watering the flowers. But beyond that, there wasn't much to do. It wasn't like I was lifeguarding. So I had 8 hours a day to just kind of sit in my cabana and keep an eye on things, which allowed me to start reading because you were so bored. And of course, these things didn't exist in 1999 or 2000 or whatever. So there wasn't, you could just kind of, do this all day long. So I started reading voraciously. And one of the things that I was always attracted by was, I guess fascinated by would be a better word, was highly successful people and people that impacted historically, biographies and things. And at some point, I think a friend gave me How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I remember reading it, and I was just struck by what I kind of felt at the time was like the ultimate video game cheat code. It was like this ultimate hack, and it's all like brilliantly obvious and yet somehow not, right? And I think that's the key to beauty is simplicity. It's very difficult to do things simply. We overcomplicate everything, but elegance is kind of simplicity, especially when it's done really, really well, like very precisely. So I kind of felt that How to Win Friends, Influence People represented that. It was very simple, full of common sense, kind of like wake up and get to it and live life with common sense. But we get so, bogged down by the frequencies of everything around us that sometimes it's very difficult. And so How to Win Friends and Influence People, to me, was very much kind of this moment of clarity, like this kind of, oh my God, like you can literally block and tackle success. It's not a lottery system. You can literally get up in the morning and treat people kindly and be very interested in them and do all these little things throughout your day to make you strong and successful and give you clarity. So for me, it was like that. It was like that,
strongness, clarity, simplicity, all those words in there just signify that elegance to beauty that you were speaking of. And that's just so beautiful. You articulated that very well. I was curious to know, what was the first thing that you did after reading the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People? What was your initial start to living that out, Adam?
Just like, you just literally like crashed this memory into my brain that I have not thought about it since it happened. And I'm actually really glad, Faith, that you just did this, because like I really have not thought about this in like 20 years. So I can tell you precisely what I did. So remember I was telling you I was this like cabana boy, pool boy, right? So this apartment complex, kind of this luxury apartment complex where I worked, had 4 pools. And so it was a pretty decent operation. And of course, I'm sitting in their board, and our boss was the kind of head of the entire operation. Her name was Patty. She was a real sweet pea, but a very kind of power woman. You know, she was very, very tall. And not only was she tall, she wore these huge high heels. And then she had huge hair. So by the time she was done with the whole thing, she was like 7.5 feet tall, right? And she was very powerful and very clear and kind of stern, but in a strong motherly kind of way. So we liked her, but she was scary. Well, I noted that a week into the job, a couple of weeks in, we'll call it a month, that I was reading this book. And the operation of the pools was in shambles. It was kind of like the schedules were all off, and this person quit without telling anybody, and they were scrambling to hire somebody else. So now this pool's closed, and the residents are grumpy because that pool's closed, and that's the one near to them. And there was just this kind of structural dilemma in the logistics of running the pool. So I came to Patty, and I sat down with her, confident, literally from the book. And I said, Patty, I noticed that we're having this problem filling these jobs at the pool. And I said, you have a lot of responsibility on your shoulders. You're running this massive apartment operation. There's all these things happening. There's 1,000 units in here. You've got these huge responsibilities. And here I see you scrambling to hire 16-year-olds to fill a pool position. That doesn't make any sense. So what I recommend is this. Right now I'm getting paid minimum wage. I think it was $6 an hour. I said, if you pay me $10 per hour, I would absolutely love to take all that off your shoulders. I will report to you. You'll have one point of contact. It'll be me. I'll do all the hiring. I'll do all the scheduling, and I'll even tour the pools to make sure that the standards are being kept up. Now, mind you, I'm 16 years old, and I had just finished the book. And she said, wow, Adam, well, we've never had a head pool, whatever the role was, a head pool person before. I said, well, call me what you want. I'm just trying to make this easy for you. And by saving you all the hours you're spending worried about this, and you're only paying me, what, $4 more per hour, it's nothing. And so she said, let's do it. Let's proceed. And so then I got to hire all these really awesome people. I was a 16-year-old boy, so I was like, this is going to be great,
You seem to have a great instinct and a knack then for hiring those people. So if you think about how you've grown up, the founder of Highclere Castle Spirits, and what are you attributing your success to, right, from a people side of things? And I'm asking this specifically maybe for parents of Gen Zs and for the Gen Zs themselves, that maybe as they leave high school or college, what would you say was what makes you stand out, so that we can share that guidance to these Gen Zs that are going to approach the workplace, etc. What would you say is the thing that makes us a little more unique and be more noticeable?
Wow, that's kind of a deep question, and a very good one, Neville. I'm not sure I'm wise enough to even answer it, but I'll do my best.
Appreciate that.
I mean, I'm a father now as well, and I have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old and a 12-week-old or something. And so I think about that often, right? I've worked very, very hard in a way to try and remove the scariness of their life. When I was growing up, I was eating, boiled hot dogs, and there were winters where, there was no oil in the tank and it was very cold and stuff like that. Granted, I wasn't, but many people have had it far worse than me. But it was a challenge, and life was kind of scary, right? Like it always felt kind of like the floor could drop out underneath at any point. Well, the benefit to that is that I suppose I developed a determination to never have to experience that the moment I was an adult.
Yeah.
So now I'm in a position where I suspect my children will never have to feel that way. And I often wonder, well, what does that mean for their future? Because if I've removed, if I'm not careful and I remove all pain and fear, what will they become other than the product that I'm seeing us churning out as a society right now, which is not a very good one. You know, this is a world where, you know, like everybody is just on their phone. Many of the young men and women I meet have a very difficult time interviewing or communicating or looking me in the eye or like getting dressed beyond pajamas. And it's a real concern. And so I think what's happened is that many parents have tried so hard to remove all that fear. And the economy has been so good to us these last decades. And America, the country has been so strong that there's been a lot of abundance. And I think that it's very important that if we don't treat abundance respectfully and nobly, which means we give it a lot of thought, then we abuse it and we'll lose it. And we'll lose it through the next generation, right? I heard this amazing quote. I'm going to try to say it right, but I think it was from the Saudi king. And he said, my father I'm trying to get it right. He said, my father rode a camel and I drove a Mercedes. My son drives a Ferrari. My grandson will drive a Mercedes and my great-grandson will drive a camel. Do you see? So pretty, and I might have misspoken that. You can Google it. It's a great quote. But the point is, things go in cycles because we remove the fear. We remove that. So I don't quite have the answer. With regards to my children, I think it certainly could be simplified as, let's not be helicopter parents. Let's let them fight their own battles, right? Let's hold them, like I'm very about holding my son accountable, right? If he's in kindergarten, so you can only take that so far. But there was a hitting incident a couple of weeks ago. So, he had to write an I'm sorry note to his teacher and the child, and he had to give it to the child. And we made a big deal about it. We talked a lot about it. I know that's a very simplified answer, but I hope that as he gets older, as all my children get older, it's not going to be an easy ride for them. I'm not going to allow it to be an easy ride for them. They're going to be highly accountable for their activities. They're going to be highly accountable for getting up, getting dressed, looking presentable. Look me in the eye when you speak to me, please. No, we're not sitting on our iPad. We're having dinner right now. No, we can't eat in a restaurant and you can't play on an iPad. We're going to have a conversation. Even at 5 years old, I go to a restaurant and I see my kids engaging in observations. And so we talk about those observations. Daddy, why is that lady wearing that hat? Or what is the waitress, doing? So we talk about those things. I look around the dining room in a restaurant and I see 99% parents and their kids doing this at the table.
On their mobile phones.
On their phones or on their iPads. And literally I look around at my wife and I say to ourselves, like, this is the generation we're creating right now. These people can't even communicate. 16, 17, 18-year-olds I try to hire have a very tough time communicating. Look me in the eye, be confident, be clear. And so these are things that I think, collectively really need to work on with our society.
Well, what I find amazing, you took command of your situation, right? And you are successful now, taking command and being intentional, right? And I love how you want to hold your own family accountable, because that means you're a leader that does that probably in the workplace as well. What really inspires me with what you're saying is how you're taking your parenting really, really seriously. And I just love that. I love that you said that. When you're saying that the generation today is maybe we're creating this generation that is stuck behind their smartphones or their iPads, there are individuals that are standouts that are able to have these conversations, that are interviewing really well. And if you think about those individuals, what are some of the characteristics or what are some of the things that they're doing that you're saying you're different to what I'm generally seeing? and makes you say, I want you on my team, or I want you in my business? What are some of the things that you're seeing?
Well, I think when those occasions happen, one of the things I always look for in any people that I'm working with or collaborating with in any capacity is authenticity.
Yeah.
The authenticity really comes from within, because you're coming from a place where you're very real. You're confident in who you are. You're confident in what you can do for our company.
Yeah. Yeah.
Number two is you have the ability to communicate that. So you have clarity. You could say, I'm fairly confident I could bring these results by doing these things. And number three, and I think this is important as well, is you've got a touch of charisma. People like you. They want to be around you. Why do they like you and want to be around you? Because you're authentic and you communicate clearly, right? So you're confident in who you are and who you're and how you're living and who you're being. And so, I mean, those are three relatively simple things. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're outgoing. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're an extrovert. It doesn't necessarily mean all that, but you're real. You're real, and you communicate your ability to solve our problem or anyone's problem, or perhaps your ability to communicate your intentions and how you're going to leave the place better than you found it.
Yeah.
I love that. That is so good. Having that authenticity and the ability to communicate clearly, the charisma and that confidence about you. You don't have to have a certain personality type necessarily, like you were saying, but those three things are really what makes people stand out to you in regards to maybe if you're hiring someone to come into your company. Those are the things that you look for. And so I think it's really good for our listeners that are entering the workforce or entering college, right, and doing these interviews, that they okay, I want to articulate things in a way where I'm still coming off authentic and true to who I am, but knowing the value that I can bring to a company so that they see me worth hiring, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I'm interested to know how you bring that authenticity for yourself as a leader and how you lead your people well in a day-to-day with bringing these characteristics into your leadership.
Well, I appreciate what you just said, Faith, and Neville, what you said earlier, I think around parenting, right? I mean, it all starts at home. Life is not about the big deal that we've just closed. Life is not about the milestone moments. You know what life is? It's like making the bed. Right? It's like talking to your kids about where the food comes from. I mean, that's life. So if we can extrapolate that out from home, those boring million decisions, those million moments, those million tiny little cuts, right? And we aggregate them, that becomes who we are. And I have never thought about it until you pointed it out. I do suppose that I try to bring that into the office and to inspire my team and to be kind to them, to genuinely care about their health, welfare, happiness, success, like genuinely to my core. So when we talk about authenticity, this is hard because it's an abstract concept.
Yeah.
Again, to oversimplify things, to elegantly simplify things, it's just about like being who you are. It's like, this is, again, like we are constantly barraged with this message of pretending. Instagram, Kardashians, reality TV, like it's all fast food garbage.
Yeah.
And so more than ever, we're being confronted all day long with these kind of like charades that we should be. And so then we internalize that. We charade at home. We charade with our partners, our spouses. We charade with the neighbors. We charade at the office. And it becomes this kind of this falsification of the journey of life. And it's painful. And then it's lonely. And then it's tough. So I think that as we talk about leading authentically, as we talk about living authentically, it starts with like trying to unplug from this stuff and just being confident in who we are, being kind and like genuinely caring about the work that we do and the people that we're working with in an honestly genuine way. Like it's not transactional. I call this concept often when I give interviews and things to the press, I call it responsible entrepreneurship.
Oh, love it.
What that means is that like every product you release, every service your company provides, that you are fundamentally thinking about the positive impact you can have to your consumer. And I can guarantee you, there are many corporations right now being run by very brilliant MBAs who way pay too much money for an education. And they're running these companies off of Excel spreadsheets. And these companies lose their way because they're forgetting to honestly care about the customer. They're caring about the shareholders, they're caring about the profits, et cetera, et cetera. If we can get back to a place where we are genuine in our care for our customer and our team, the rest just flows. It just flows and life becomes easy. And no matter how stressful you get, you don't need Ambien or Xanax to fall asleep, because you're falling asleep with a completely honest conscience. There's no guilt. So you're never that stressed because you're not running from anything or anybody. You're just being you. And you're going to make mistakes and stressful moments are going to come and you're going to fail and you're going to succeed and all that stuff's going to happen, but you're going to sleep like a baby and you're going to have fun.
Yes, I love that. And you have this wonderful energy. I just can't believe we're at 10:25. I have two questions for you, if you allow me, if you'll endear me.
I'm sorry, my rants are a little long. You asked
no,
me
I love it. I love it. No, and your passion,
all this great stuff out of me.
Your passion comes through, which I love. So there's two questions. I'm going to ask them to you right up so you can answer them both if you don't mind. So the first one was resilience. I love it, that Arab prince that you shared. It's about resilience, right? People want things to be easy, but we only develop resilience when we go through tough times, right? So we've got to make sure that our kids go through tough times, and or our work colleagues, the people that we employ. We want to develop resilience. Life has got to be a little bit difficult. So I certainly understand and agree with that. So I'm delighted that you mentioned that, and I think it's important for us there. So how do we develop that resilience, or what mindset should we have to have resilience? If that could be the first question. And the second question is, this is the Breakthrough podcast, right? We call it the Breakthrough. And we'd love to know, who was someone that you worked with as a mentor now that you're ready to see of a successful business, or when you started out, or even in your young adult life? Who gave you that breakthrough? Who was a mentor, someone that guided you and gave you those opportunities? Who is someone that you're working with now? So those would be the two questions for you, if you're okay. So resilience, how to develop that mindset, and who gave you a breakthrough? Or who was that person? Or is there a mentor that you work with? If you wouldn't mind.
Well, I suppose like resilience kind of makes me think of character. Like it's a function of character. Mm. And like anything else, like let's use muscles as an example, the more you push, the stronger the muscle becomes. Mm. Right? So resilience is a piece of the character, I think, that's very much like that, which basically means like, throw it at me, bro. Like, throw it at me. Like, I'm not going to stop. Like, I'm going to win this, whatever this is. Yeah. And and it's, I think having that commitment, that unfailing commitment, like I have made a very simple, clean decision. I will not be stopped. And so, I mean, how do you develop that? I suppose it's by, preaching confidence to our children, preaching confidence to our self-talk, right? In our meditation and our prayers, like, I can do this. I will get this done. Nothing will stop me. And repeating that message and showing our kids when they fail, like letting them fall and scrape their knee, but then walking them through, like getting back up again. And we're going to do it again. We're going to do it again. That I suppose is how you teach it. I don't know. Again, a very, very Zen question for not a very Zen guy.
And a breakthrough for you, what was, who was a person that maybe guided you, helped you, gave you that breakthrough, or what did you do to get that, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, so I mentioned that I didn't have very much of a relationship with a father. And so my life mentor has always been Uncle Bob. And let me tell you the tale of Uncle Bob. Uncle Bob was born in Holly Hill, South Carolina, a very poor Black man whose grandmother was a slave. And Uncle Bob was so poor that, like, he was adopted out 4 houses down from his real mom, because the real mom had too many kids already, couldn't even feed him, walking to school with no shoes, sleeping on a mattress with 4 other kids, the whole like out of a movie kind of reality of sadness, really. And he when he became a early 20s, he moved up north here to New England, and he eventually married my aunt, so my mom's sister, before I was born, actually. Now, when they were married, a Black and a white person could not be married in the state of Virginia, just for a little perspective, okay? And he ended up getting into computers in the late 80s, when computers were kind of new, like PCs were kind of new. Matter of fact, he bought me a computer when I was like 7 years old. It was called the Atom computer. He thought it was fun. And this man ended up working his way up until he was one of the top 100 employees, I think, for Dell under Michael Dell, and became a global executive managing their Fortune 50 customers for Dell globally. And I remember when growing up, I mentioned I was, pretty poor household. My mom, well, Uncle Bob actually was doing rather well. So he would take me around the world, take me on business trips, or take me on vacations. So I started seeing it at the age of 9, 12. I started seeing the world. I started traveling. I started seeing other countries, hearing other languages. And my fascination with the world became all the greater. And I used to ask him, Uncle Bob, like, when you go to these fancy board meetings, I mean, do you ever get intimidated being like the only Black guy there? And he was, Adam, we put on pants every morning the same exact way, he would say to me. And as a result, he actually, he and my aunt helped me attend private school and get a better education. He taught me how to dress and fitted me for my first suit. Wow. And that brought me around the world. Like, it was amazing because, like Mark Twain says, you are not going to be great if you spend your whole life sitting in the corner of your little room thinking that that's the universe. We've got to travel. We must travel. That's something that I try to instill in my kids, but even in my team. I mean, right before COVID hit, I took my family to Nicaragua for a month. It's also the country where my cigars are produced. And for like 9 days of the month vacation, I flew my whole team out, my whole management team out, to say, listen, we're going to work from Nicaragua. We're going to work from this villa on the beach here, and we're going to brainstorm, and we're going to dive in the salty water, and we're going to go to the boxing gym, and we're going to box until we puke, and we're going to go through all this stuff together. And we did. And so travel is so important to the soul. And Uncle Bob taught me that and showed me the world. And he also showed me that, like, if he can do it, a Black man from Holly Hill with not a penny to his name, versus 1990s kid from Connecticut, that had at least had some resources available, right? Then I got no excuses. And he taught me that. So that's my mentor.
Oh, that's so awesome. Uncle Bob sounds great. I wish I could have met Uncle Bob. Now
let's get him on a podcast.
Oh, I love it. Love it.
He's newly retired from Dell. I think he's bored out of his mind. I think he's trading in very high-end comic books. He's completely amazing. And if you'd like that, I think he would be honored to speak to you.
Oh, fantastic. I am looking forward to that. We'll make it happen. Thank you,
Done.
Adam. Thank you, Adam, for the amazing conversation today. This is just, the people that listen to this podcast are going to be so inspired. They are going to be encouraged to live out an authentic life. And now with the steps for success, hearing from you, and they might even go travel after hearing this encouragement to go see the world, to meet different people of different places. Just so much good stuff in this podcast. And so thank you again for being our guest. If people want to connect with you, Adam, where can they find you on social media or on a website?
Don't connect with me.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. I'm on Instagram. I'm on mostly, I guess, just a bit of Instagram. I'm not super active on social media. Of course, our brands are. So check out Highclere Castle Gin, our website, and our Instagram and our YouTube channel. We've got some fun videos and content we throw out from one of the world's most famous castles. And but yeah, I mean, hit me up on Instagram, of course. And I love chatting with people and making new friends. So I can't admit to being the most active social media person. I'm very much in the moment and in the now, but yeah, hit me up for sure. And I'm happy to engage.
Awesome. We'll leave the links down below for anyone that's interested in checking Adam out further and connecting with him. If you want to connect with Dale Carnegie, Greater NC on Instagram as well, you can do that there. We will also link the link below for Greater Podcast information and figuring out where you can get those on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc. Thank you for everyone that's listening, as well as my co-host Neville, and also Adam. Thank you very much again, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks.
Yes, great.
Bye,
Thank you.
everyone. Take care.